Greetings everyone, this is Kamara. How are you? I wanted to do a follow-up video some 5 years later, a 2020 kind of update on working with your ancestors, and I want to thank everyone for supporting the Are You Answering Your Call ancestral video that was done years ago, and that was just some channeled thoughts that I had from my ancestors on, in general, how to get started with working with your ancestors, what that might mean for you, how traditional African practices may inform that. It was a very general beginning video. It was for those people who aren't involved with any kind of initiated practice or religion. And it was to share my own personal experience with working with my ancestors. And since that time, I definitely have grown in my ancestral practice. I was contacted by someone about a month ago on my birthday to ask me if I would follow up with some thoughts on that video. And I thought to myself, wow, I still have that video up. I went back into my old account because I don't even use that YouTube account. I don't use this one anymore. And it had so many views. So thank you for those people who not only viewed the video, who made some comments, some offered some feedback. And I really appreciate that. And I thought, let me take a listen. So I took a listen this morning. I finally had a little bit of time to do that, and when I listened to the video, I still believe and still practice that way, and it really spoke to how grounded I am in my practice, and there's definitely some things that I would like to comment on right now that I would add to that, but there's very little that I would take away or anything that I feel like I've outgrown. I really do feel like those practices are at their foundation the same for me. So I'm very thankful for that, because that was a channeled message from my ancestors, and our relationship now, some 5 years later, has grown a lot. It's deepened in many ways, and I do want to share some of that with you. I probably won't be doing a lot of videos on this channel. I have other life responsibilities. I do have a new YouTube channel, and even that is kind of a little slow in the work, just because I have my own work, my own practice, and I'm really busy with that right now, especially with the pandemics. And so, but I did find some time in here because I feel like I was being called to put a 2020 perspective on working with your ancestors, and I definitely want to stay in contact with folks and offer you more information if it's useful for you. So again, let's preface all of this with, this is my personal practice. I'm not trained or initiated in any particular traditional African religion or practice. And so this has been, but I have had the honor of studying with different people. I've had the honor of different teachers teaching me their ways. And I felt like in communing with my ancestors, I've come up with my own unique way of honoring them and working with them. And some of that is steeped in other religions and practices. So that some of this is mine. Some of it belongs to other people. I feel like in the way that I do this, it has served me. Not only has it served me, it's really blessed me. And so if there's any way that I could share what I do and it's helpful for someone else, please do it. But also know that as you get into this practice with your ancestors, as you connect deeper with your ancestors, as you answer the call, your own particular blend, your own uniqueness and your own power will come through with this work and how you work with the ancestors. So let's get started and let's talk a little bit about how I've updated my practice. So let me talk a little bit about how my practice has evolved since Sister Goddess. And I'm really happy to leave these videos up, although I don't write on the blog anymore. I don't produce any new videos except for this one on Sister Goddess. I've transformed some of the work I do into channeling the moon. That's the name of my new online presence on Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel, and mainly I've been channeling some of the messages from the spirit world, from my ancestors, from my spirit guides, through the moon, and been using some of that divine feminine energy to work with tarot and oracle. And so that is my work now. I have a podcast that I'm doing on the new moon and full moon called Channeling the Moon, and that's on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. So if you want to connect with me that way, please do. Just because I probably will not be updating a lot of videos here. I'll probably do it sporadically because I have other work that I'm doing. But I wanted to start off with some channeled messages. When I thought about doing this video this morning after listening to the old video that I did 5 years ago, the ancestors said, you could update this, you have some new things to share about our relationship. And I said, you know what, I do. But they told me some things as I started to write down some of my thoughts. They started to come through, and I think that they really did want to offer some balm for these times that we're in 2020. I'm recording this August 2020, and at this point we are about 5 to 6 months into quarantine, or not so much quarantine, or not so much shelter in place. Where I'm at, shelter in place has never lifted. I live in Oakland, California, which is Ohlone and Chichenyo land of the traditional indigenous people who live here. And we have never really gotten out of quarantine. There's been phases of businesses opening and closing, but we have rising rates of COVID here. And so, we've really never really lost that status of never really retrieved the health of the community. In fact, the community is, suffering right now. A lot of black and brown people are suffering with illness and contracting illness. And so, these are just difficult times. On top of that, we are in a uprising. We are answering the call to amplify the voices of black people and amplify again all of the murders that are taking place of black bodies. And if you watch the old video that was 5 years ago, I made a comment about the police murders in that video, and those times I described as turbulent. And so that being said, nothing has changed for us, for the black diaspora in America. And so, dealing with not only an illness that is very severe, that has impacted the African community here very severely, has impacted the indigenous community and the Latinx community. It is as if these murders came like just cold water once again in our face. And so, I think the curse and the blessings of these times is that people have been indoors, finally not really working and being distracted, but really indoors and seeing what's really happening to the black community. And so there's a new call that's coming forth, and our ancestors are working with all of our spirit guides, with the guides of the universe, to bring forth all the injustices, and not only that, to call in a new time, a transformative time. And so, the very first message I got from the ancestors, channeled in, is that we were made for these times. All of our prayers are being answered in these times. That these times are the ones that our ancestors, if you've been working with them, if you've been conscious and awake to your journey and to your purpose, these are the times in which you are being built for. And hey everyone, so let's get into the channeled message from the ancestors, at least mine, and maybe some of this will resonate with you. So they did say that this is the time that we have prayed for, that we have been built for, a time of huge transformation. The decade can no longer abide by the old regime, and the energy is not even there anymore for white supremacy, and it's losing its foothold in the world. Capitalism, imperialism, all of that is losing its foothold in the world. And that the great mother, the great plant mother, who I will talk about later, who I have like a real beautiful relationship with, that's developed over these 5 years, also said to me, while doing medicine work, that, she's coming for us, that she is coming to right the wrongs of the world. And when this was said to me years ago, I didn't know how that was going to happen, but she showed me that that she is coming to inform and transform and make change happen. So however you wish to receive that, definitely know that we are in the time of the great mother, and that her hand is all over this change. And so what the ancestors are saying right now is that we are being presented with fertile ground for our ideas around what needs to change, around institutions and structures that need to transform. And so the ancestors are saying now is the fertile ground for all of those ideas that you may have had even a decade ago. They even urged me that if you don't remember right now, go back to 2010. In the decade between 2010 and 2019, you had some really powerful ideas. Some of you had some really powerful ideas, and they're saying those ideas, even though you didn't see how they would be implemented back then, it's time for you to know that they can be planted and brought to fruition in this moment, these coming moments even. So take that to heart, and don't let good ideas die in an old decade. This decade is ready for those ideas. They also wanted me to encourage everyone to tap into your imagination, to tap into your creativity, to not give up on creative ideas, innovative ideas. This is your time. No matter how impossible you think that this is, or how you think, maybe I don't have the finances for this idea, or maybe this idea is just too different. Now is the time to present those ideas. This is the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius means that we are in innovation. Things that may seem completely off the wall a decade ago are very possible right now. And just look to our community, look to our society. People are doing things that 10 years ago would have been unheard of. And so they are saying to tap into this energy right now. Believe in yourself, believe in the intuition and the downloads you're receiving from your own ancestors. They also wanted me to speak to the ideas around being steeped, trying to do this new work while being steeped in old ideas that no longer work or serve us anymore. They specifically pointed out that patriarchy and white supremacy, ideas that are rooted in the colonized mind, they're saying to make sure that you root those out of anything new that you're trying to do. Don't start organizations that are rooted in patriarchal ideas or white supremacy or colonized ideas. They're saying don't start something new without examining and turning over every stone to make sure that you're doing anti-racist work. Make sure that you're doing work that's inclusive of everyone, especially everyone in the Black community. If you're doing Black work, if you're doing work for the Black community, make sure you're including everyone who's part of the Black community, and making sure that you're giving equity and time to all the voices in Black and brown communities. So they were very very strong about that point, that they're saying that this is not a time to continue on with the hierarchies that were taught to us by colonized minds. So right now too, they talked about So, yes, energetic reparations. And I want to talk to you about this term because they just immediately, that was what came with the channeled message, was that there has been hundreds of years, if not centuries, of debt running on the backs of black and brown people. And that energetic debt, the energy, the time, the labor that we have put into white supremacist structures to keep them running, to work for them, not because we wanted to, but for our own survival, just to feed our kids, to live, that has run an energetic and spiritual debt. This is what my ancestors explained. And that it's time in these moments to collect on that debt. That we are no longer going to be subjugated to energy output that is free, you know? And they said that energetic reparations is what we also want to demand, not just monetary. The money, actually, you will find, they advise you will find that the money is not going to be 100% satisfactory. That we need to have the debts collected on of all the energy and all the time and all the energy that we took away from building and securing our own families, caring for other people's children, breastfeeding other people's children, building their monuments and their structures, keeping companies running, even during COVID, black and brown bodies serving as essential workers, while other people got to shelter in place. Those are debts. Those are cosmic debts that are being called in at this moment. And they're advising that if you are of the black and brown body, that you have the right to call in these debts. That if you are actively, and many of us still are, actively giving energy output to regimes of white supremacy, that you get to, in your prayers, ask for the collection to start. Ask for your energetic reparations to begin. And they promise that you will begin to see movement, not only in your finances, but in your time. You're going to suddenly begin to find time to take a nap. You're going to find the time for self-care. You're going to find the time to spend with your children and your family members and your community, because they're saying that right now the universe is looking at that. They are balancing the books, so to speak. And so when you bring into your prayers specifically that you are ready for the tab of white supremacy to be paid, you will receive the energetic blessings of the universe at this moment. So you need to ask for it. You know, the tab just keeps running, but you can begin to collect. And for those people who participate in still taking energy from black and brown bodies, as if you don't owe them anything, you will begin to see that you do. You know, that's all I can say about that. In some form or fashion, you are going to be presented with a bill for all of that energy. And so the ancestors want you to know to speak that in your prayers, that you're ready to collect on those debts and see how your life changes during this time. And they want you to know that that there is just a lot of there's a lot of work going towards the sovereignty of black and brown people at this time. Don't worry, your bloodlines are coming together for health and for healing. So in doing that, I want you to know that we're going to talk next about just how to strengthen your ancestors for this time, for this work. And there's ways to do this to make sure they're properly fed, that they have the strength to carry you through these changing times, because they are not for the faint of heart. There's a lot going on. Okay, so how to strengthen your ancestors to work with you during this time? Because there is a lot of change happening. There's a lot of restructuring of energetic worlds happening at this time. And you want to make sure that you are not only prepared yourself, but that your bloodline's prepared and that you have the reinforcements and the strength to deal with turbulent times, because um, things as they were are just going to continue to unravel. And you don't want to get caught in the undertow of change, because change doesn't like automatically go to utopian time. Change means that we have to work with the energies that want to hang on to what is old structures, and we also have to work with energies that want to move on from that. And in between there's just a lot of turbulence, a lot of chaos. And so you want to make sure that you are rooted, and that you can weather the change, because a tree that is rooted moves with the wind. It doesn't fear the wind. So you want to do these practices for not only your own self-care, but for the protection of your family and for your bloodline. So one of the things that, and you can watch the old video, because the old video talks about some of the beginning practices. What I've learned over time is that you really would benefit you to go out in nature, to take walks in nature, to sit under trees, to get some information while you're out in nature. Trees are next to our ancestors. They hold our ancestral stories, because they've been around for hundreds of years. So they've even probably run across our ancestors at different points. And so they know those old stories. And so sitting with a tree, it helps you to kind of focus a little bit on the Sankofa energy, like looking over your shoulder in a way that's not so mesmerized by the past, but you're receiving information from the past. And so sitting in nature, sitting by bodies of water if that's your element, or sitting by contained fire, or sitting in the wind on a mountain, or on a hill. These are other power ways of receiving messages from the elements. Going camping and just being out in nature, or just taking walks and hikes, that can help, and you will feel restored from those practices as well. There's also ways in which you make offerings to strengthen your ancestors during this time. Offerings of meals that they may have liked when they were alive. I know for me, I'm plant-based, but I fix my ancestors a meal that includes meat and yams and some other traditional foods and drinks such as rum. And I leave that on my altar for 24 hours, and I feed my ancestors that way with additional prayers and candle work. And so when that time is over, they're strengthened, they're fed, they're ready to work for me. So in whatever way you channel that is the way that you need to make offerings to your ancestors, do it consistently. I do mine on the new moon and the full moon, but you may do it during the waxing moon or the waning moon, or you may have other particular days that you want to feed your ancestors. Do it consistently, and do it with prayer. And you might want to write out an intention. That's sometimes called a petition. Sometimes I'll write out not only what I'm grateful for, but I'll write out for what I have an intention to bring in, and what I'm requesting for my blessings to be, and I will fold that and put with my offerings, and just make sure that I'm doing that work in a very intentional and specific way. And then also, when it comes to doing this work, and any kind of ancestor work, and any work where you're just walking around in a black and brown body, protect yourself, protect your energy. And so when I'm doing shrine work or altar work, I protect with salt. Then you can also take some eggshells and bake them in the oven to dry them out and make a powder. And this eggshell powder is also very protective. You can put it around the perimeter of your house. You can put it on in front of the front door. You can put it around your altar. This is a way to protect the work that you're doing, creating a barrier, energetic barrier. So that is one way. And again, you can either exchange the eggshell powder for white salt, black salt, red salt. Salt is very protective as well. Do the proper protecting of your area. Pray for the protection of not only yourself but your family members every day, even those family members that are extended. Your prayers will go a long way to make sure that your family members are protected as they walk in this world, because we need daily protection. So consider that something that you do every day consistently. I do it every day for not only, those really in my immediate family, but my extended family. I even pray for our pets in our family, and I most definitely pray for myself too. So make those part of your consistent daily practices. Consistency is very important for growing a very strong ancestral relationship. Praying every day, speaking with them, and being in conversation, not only to ask for things, but just to let them know how your life is going daily. Journaling, making sure that you're including them in all of your activities, that in which spirit comes first, and that should be, most of your activities. We also want to remember that in healing ancestral trauma, I think a lot of people are starting to be very curious about how to deal with intergenerational trauma. The very first thing that I recommend is that you tap into your ancestral resiliency as well. There's a way in which you are right here. You are right here in this moment, watching this video, being very curious about how to do ancestral work, or you're already doing it. That means that someone has made the way for you to be here, and they had strength to work through all of their adversities, all of the challenges that they were going through, and that strength and that resiliency has been passed on to you. So you have that as well. So remember that as you get into healing the trauma, healing intergenerational wounds, healing historical wounds. Know that you have the backing of 10,000 or more ancestors. So tap into that wisdom and that strength and that inner knowing that you have, because that is there too. So this is a lot of an update, but I wanted you to know that in these times we have been made for them. Our ancestors have been very proud of us doing this work, and I think that we need to also know that we are being watched, we are being blessed during this time, and they want you to know that this is a time to pay attention to your dreams. They will come to you in your dreams. They will come to you through other spirit beings and people and messages, and pay attention to those synchronicities right now. Know that in some ways there are events that are happening that, yes, are very traumatizing, but they are also helping us to learn how to be more and more powerful and stand in our truth and our authenticity during these times, and that we don't want any of the murders of our brothers and sisters to go in vain, that we want to stay strong, that we want to stay clear and grounded in the work that we are doing, and that spiritually, as always, we've had the upper hand. And it's only when we remember that and practice our power and practice our resiliency that we will transform these times, and we are ready to meet them right now. So I'm very honored and to be able to share some of this with you. And again, these are my own personal experiences. They're not the one and only way. I don't know the one and only way. I'm continuously growing and learning myself, but I'm happy to share, and I welcome comments and feedback, and I hope that during this time that you get the relationship that you most desire with your ancestors, and that that relationship continues to nourish you and grow you. Take care. Peace.